Sean Levine will step into the cage with Brendan Tobin in Are You Gonna Fight Me?
I'm gonna fight your ass.
Here on Tapped Out.
That's right, fight me like a man.
Only on the BetQL network.
You know the rules. I want a good, clean fight. When I tell you to break, I want you to step back out my command and break. Now go back to the corner and come out fighting at the bell.
All right, here we go. Meet up in the middle of the octagon and let's get at it. That's Brendan Tobin. I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine. The segment is called You're Gonna Fight Me. We were just talking about Leon Edwards, and I think besides Leon, it was Kelvin Gastelum that, I think that, back that up. Back that up. Beep.
All right, dude?
Beep. All right, yeah, I'm good. All right. Kelvin Gastelum. I blended together two different things. I think Kelvin Gastelum gave Israel Adesanya his best fight before his last one and before Jan. You going to fight me on that? Reason I'm bringing it up is because Gastelum was supposed to be on this card.
Nah, that was an awesome fight. Awesome fight. And Gastelum's just he's a confounding dude, man. I mean, he was when he won the Ultimate Fighter, and he was the last guy picked. And he's been a puzzle ever since, really, between weight classes and the fights he wins and the fights he loses, mostly losing lately, and also the way that he pulls out of fights because, man, that was a gross staph infection on his face.
Remember when he walked around with the belt like he was the champion, though?
I do.
I could never get that image out of my head. It was so cringeworthy that I couldn't deal with it. And then, like you said, he's had his chances, and he made Izzy look ugly after that fight. So it's just he's never really gotten to the mountaintop, if you will. But yeah, Gaston's been in some pretty fun fights. We found out last week that Khabib is done. That's it. He's done training Islam. He's done training himself. He's done coaching. He's done with the whole thing. Are you going to fight me if I say that doesn't last 6 months? Like, Khabib's a fighter. That's what he does. I don't think it's going to last very long. He'll be back.
I will fight you on the fact that I think anybody could take a 6-month vacation. Like, yeah, I think that 6 months that seems very doable. I feel like he could do 6 months because Islam's gonna fight in what is it? It's March, April, whenever the hell it is.
Yeah.
He's coming up and he's gonna fight that. So that's kind of behind it. He gets that out of his way. You know what? You last a couple of months. I feel like he could last 6 months. That's no sweat for Khabib. Will he be back? I think so, but then also, you know, he did keep true to staying retired, which a lot of fighters don't even do. So I think he will be back in some capacity eventually. He seemed really into promoting fights. I don't know, you know, that just went by the wayside too. And Kevin Lee's looking for a new home now, it seems. So I think he will eventually be back, but 6 months, that's doable.
I tell my girlfriend this all the time, BT, and you can listen if you want. Khabib can listen if he wants. You get bored too easy. Like, Khabib was awesome. He's one of the best, if not, a lot of people regard him as the best fighter of all time, but he still had so much gas left in the tank. With the Eagle FC promotion, it felt like, we were just talking about it last year. We were bringing people on. They were having fights, and then this is gone, and now he's got a champion in Islam, and he's not even going to be in his corner to defend it one time. Like, what? Just, this is life. It's not always going to be new and exciting. So what's up with this dude? Like, he gets out too early.
Yeah, but you know what I would say, and I don't know we don't know much about Khabib's personal life. Like, he's one of the most private fighters, I think, ever. You think about the special relationship that he had with his dad and how much that meant to him. I could understand, like, hey, I want to be a dad. I want to raise my kids. I want to start having them wrestle bears. Maybe he wants to take his kid to wrestle his first bear. You ever think of that? It's time to move on. Islam's not his kid. He completed the cycle. It's never going to get better than that. He probably knows that. It's never better than getting there's nothing like winning it. And I think for him, he's been there for that moment now. You take little Khabib, go wrestle bear. Come on.
That's the thing, though. Like, with little Khabib, I can't do the accent as well as you just did. I think he's done with fighting, period. I think he's going to let that kid play soccer or something. I don't know, man. Just feel Khabib's a weird guy. We always talk about Tony Ferguson and Sean Strickland and some of these other characters. Khabib he's a unique character himself. Speaking of his protege, Islam Makhachev, right now he's a huge favorite against Alexander Volkanovski. Are you going to fight me if I tell you that it would be ridiculous to not lay money down on Alexander Volkanovski because he can absolutely win this fight. And the odds you're getting are just too good.
I'm going to fight you just because I'm starting to hear that too much. And now it makes me feel like Islam's going to go buzzsaw him just like he did to Charles Oliveira. Because I felt like we felt all of
that number. You're going to pay minus 400.
I don't know. I might find a method. I'll see what the odds are by the time we get to that fight promotion. We'll give that the time it deserves. But now, like, I always am wary of, like, when we all start thinking something is too good to be true. You know, maybe somebody knows a little something, or maybe we should, you know, open our eyes a little bit to it. And, you know, I was definitely slow on Islam. I thought, and I think understandably so, like, he got an easy path to the title, but he won that title looking easy. And so I feel like maybe the guy's a lot better than we think that he is, and we're just starting to see him scratch the surface. And look, it's good for Volkanovski, but it is a big step up. I mean, the guy is not a behemoth, and now he's stepping up in weight. So it's it is a tough challenge. I do think it's a disrespectful line for sure, but now I'm like worried that everybody's starting to be on that path, you know?
That's why I think that not a lot of money's going to come in. I mean, people are going to bet on that fight. That's not what I'm saying, but I can't imagine a lot of money's going to come in on Islam, even he as good as he is, even if you think he's going to dominate the fight like he did against Charlie Olives at that number you're having to pay. I'm not going to pay $500 to get $100 back, which is what it might be by the time that fight goes down. So that's going to be an interesting one to keep your eyes on. You're going to fight me here on the BetQL network as we work our way towards tonight's main event, Sean Strickland versus Nasruddin Imavov. Imavov right now a slight favorite, minus 135 at BetMGM. You can get Sean Strickland at plus 110. The middleweights are about to go at it as we speak, so we'll keep you updated from the Apex. You're going to fight me if I say the Apex needs to be done. Like, now that COVID is pretty much behind us and we've got live events everywhere, I think the Apex served its purpose, and I think it was great. But at this point, we need live fight nights everywhere, every time.
Oh, I'm not going to fight you on that. Yeah, I think it's time. I'm surprised because, you know, Dana was so about the promotion being back to what it is, and, you know, being at a fight night pretty recently. He's talked about the Orlando card a bunch, and dude, I mean, people were there from the start. The first fight, that place was packed.
True? Were you there?
I was there. There.
Okay. All right.
Dude, if you like it that much, the reason I say this is not to steal a term of the Levitard show, look at me, Louie. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying, like, he seems to mention it so much that I would think that you would want to do it every single week, but it seems like we still got some apexes to check off before we get there.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's time to have live fight nights everywhere, maybe every now and again, but that thing more than served its purpose. You're going to fight me. I was rewatching Nate 1, and then I had to rewatch Nate 2 because it came up next on YouTube the other night when I couldn't sleep. I think because of the expectations we had, and I understand that Nate was a short notice replacement for Rafael dos Anjos the first time around, but because of the words that went back and forth, because of the way the fight went down, because Nate won, right? Was the first guy to beat Conor in the octagon. I think both those fights are top 5 UFC fights all time, period. You going to fight me?
Wow. Both of them.
And I'll put one ahead of 2 only because I'm not sure Conor won the second fight. Do you think Conor won the second fight? It felt like they knew there was going to be a third at some point, and the only way to get a trilogy was to have it split the first 2.
I remember thinking I thought that he did win the second fight. I remember thinking that
really?
I thought he was going to lose the fight, and I was impressed with him, you know, having anything left, because I thought for sure the same thing was going to happen. He was going to gas out, and it was going to be over.
He kind of did for a minute, like in the third or the early fourth, and then he got his gas back in the fourth, and then once he got it back, it was a very even fight. I have no problem with it.
Great fight. Man, I will say that I think number 1 is like one of the top holy bleep moments of all time. Absolutely. And I would put 2 as the contender to be up there. But like 1's up there with that moment, with Ronda getting KO'd, with Kamaru getting KO'd. Like, those are some of like the most shocking, jaw-dropping. And you know what's always makes it better is like when you're at I remember watching the Conor and Nate at a sports bar, and like everybody's going nuts that Conor lost. It was crazy.
I'll throw Amanda Giuliana in there also for the feeling that you're talking about, where as you're watching it, The announcers are getting excited. You can see it kind of the underdog starting to do their thing. I mean, every now and again, you get that feeling, and that's why we love this sport so much. And it's pretty rare. We love all the fights. We watch them all. We bet on them. We try to make some money. It's entertaining. But, man, sometimes you get those special ones like you're talking about where, as fight fans, you remember exactly where you were when Overeem took out Brock Lesnar. Like, there are just those fights where you remember where you were when it happened.
Oh, my God. When I'm just thinking of, you just mentioned Overeem, the immediate thing I went to is Francis just knocking him up with that uppercut. Oh, my God.
That's not even the worst
vicious.
shot he's ever taken. How about when Jairzinho Rosenstrike hit him?
No, that when he blew up his face. That was crazy.
Like, I feel like it's an upcoming segment. What fighter has taken the worst damage? Like, had the most highlight shots against them? It's got to be the Reeve, man. I mean, the guy eats horse meat, but still, he also gets punched in the face. All right, you going to fight me if I tell you that YouTube boxing is dumb and over, period. I know Jake Paul is the one guy that's, like, surviving this whole thing, but it's run its course. You going to fight me?
Had no interest in whatever the hell was going on today with KSI. I don't know who Salt Poppy is. Maybe that makes me old. Maybe that makes me old, dude. Maybe we'll have to learn and do a fight because everybody's talking about it, and we'll have to see what the action's going on it. I find it interesting that Jake is like interested in fighting these guys again. It almost makes me feel like he is, he's got so many things all over the place, but maybe he wants to get back into fighting reality stars because it's better business than him actually fighting fighters, because it's hard to get people to be interested in him fighting, crossing over worlds and him losing. But I'm with you. I don't care. KSI, he was supposed to fight Dylan Dennis. Who cares? Salt Poppy, Salt Bay, who gives a rat's ass?
Salt and Peppa, I don't know who it was. Gervonta Davis, though, Tank, we do care about him. Looks like he's going to go down finally with Ryan Garcia on April 15th. Who you got? Because I've been telling you since we've been hosting the show now for a couple of years that I think Tank Davis is overrated. I know that he's got the one-hitter-quitter power, and that Ryan Garcia has the fastest hands of anybody probably boxing right now. That being said, styles make fights, man. I'm just a hater, so I'm going to take Ryan Garcia, but I don't feel great about it.
I got Gervonta. I think Gervonta's a lot more skilled than people give him credit for. I was impressed with what he did last week against Hector Luis Garcia. Hector Luis Garcia basically no mossed because he didn't get knocked out. He got beat up for the entire 8th round and basically didn't want to come out for the 9th. Claimed he couldn't see, but he wasn't cut. Gervonta hits hard, man. He hits hard. And the other thing that's interesting about it is Gervonta sells out wherever he goes. And he said an interesting thing at his media day where he was like, these guys think they know what it is to have a lot of followers and have a lot of fame. It's a different ball game when you have all these sellout crowds, which Ryan really hasn't had many of. And I'm fascinated what that's like because, he's been a guy who's had a hard time with some mental things and dealing with scrutiny and the pressures of being a fighter and being as popular as he is. And I wonder what it's like being in a fight that's this marquee. Gervonta's been a marquee guy now for a while. I know that people haven't scoffed a little bit at the competition, and I get that criticism. But I'm fascinated by how Ryan handles that. But I also just think skill-wise, I think Gervonta's a little bit more well-rounded, a little more dangerous.
But you would agree that this is the first time on both sides that they fought a quote-unquote real dude. I know that Gervonta Davis came close to losing just a couple of fights ago. I thought he lost on the cards. But these are the dudes.
I just give them credit because they're going to fight each other and they're both young. Like we're watching now, like Errol Spence was announced this week is going to fight Keith Thurman, who, look, I love Keith, but he hasn't been a relative welterweight in 5-6 years. He's had major hand issues. The most interesting thing about him in the last 3 years is that he got knocked down by Manny Pacquiao. And so you're basically burying Errol versus Terrence Crawford. At least they're fighting, supposedly. Like, at least they're doing it. So you have to give the monster credit for that.
That's true. I mean, all these other fights that we talk about, whether it's boxing all the way back to Pacquiao Mayweather, or you're talking about Spence Crawford, or for a while, I mean, it was even with the heavyweights, these guys were dodging each other and still are to some extent. Heck, you can go to the heavyweights in the UFC with John Jones. Like, it is nice to get the fights that we want to see at the right time. It's fine to get the names, but you got to get them at the right time. So I'm with you there. It's cool that we get to see. I mean, how old are those dudes? Ryan Garcia is like 23 or something.
I think Ryan. Yeah, Ryan's I think 24, 25, and I think Gervonta is 28, 29. Like they're both way still in their prime. Ton of the
a decade plus to fight. So yeah, good for them for at least getting in the ring together. All right, coming up next, we go from the brawls to the balls. You see what I did there? And we're going to talk a little bit of get your mind out of the gutter, BT. We're going to talk some NFL playoffs coming up next with a fight twist to it. I'm going to give BT the playoff matchup, and he's going to tell me who gets knocked out. You're locked into the BetQL network.